My daughter-in-law slipped crushed pills into my wine glass. I watched her do it, every movement, every calculated gesture, as she stirred my Thanksgiving Cabernet with her finger, then wiped it clean on her napkin like nothing happened. Evelyn thought she was looking at a lonely old fool, a widower so desperate for family connection that he'd never suspect his sweet daughter-in-law of anything darker than forgetting his birthday. She thought wrong. You see, I'd been suspecting this moment for weeks. The forged documents I'd found, the mysterious bank transfers, the overheard phone calls about solving the old man problem permanently. So, as I sat there watching her performance of concern, asking if I felt tired, suggesting I should rest upstairs after dinner, I did something she never saw coming. I smiled, not because I was naive, but because she'd just drunk from the wrong glass. Subscribe to hear how this family dinner became a federal case. Let me back up 18 months to show you how we got here. It started innocently enough. Evelyn and my son Daniel had been married 3 years when my wife Eleanor passed away from cancer. I was 66, recently retired from NASA, rattling around in our 4-bedroom house in suburban Phoenix with nothing but memories and a comfortable retirement portfolio worth about $3 million. Evelyn stepped right into the void. "Dad, you shouldn't be alone during the holidays," she'd say, showing up with Lily and homemade cookies. "Family takes care of family." And I believed her. God help me. I wanted to believe her. The requests started small. Lily needed new school clothes. Could Grandpa help with 200? Of course I could. Daniel was working brutal hours at the hospital as a surgical resident. Could I cover their grocery bills for a month? Absolutely. Then came the bigger asks. "Dad, our kitchen faucet is leaking and the whole counter needs replacement. The quote is $65,000, but we just don't have it right now. Daniel is drowning in student loans." $65,000. I wrote the check without hesitation, because that's what grandparents do. We invest in our children's future. But here's what I didn't know yet. Evelyn had already spent $41,000 of my previous gifts on a brand new BMW X3. Not a family necessity, a luxury vehicle she posted about on Instagram with the caption, "Blessed by family who believes in us." The pattern escalated quickly after that. Lily's private school tuition at Desert Hills Academy, $18,000 a year. She's so gifted, Dad. This school will give her opportunities we never had. Emergency dental work for Daniel, $12,000. Insurance won't cover it, and you know how important his smile is for patient confidence. Evelyn's medical bills for a procedure she never actually had, $23,000. Each time she had the same approach. She'd call when Daniel was at the hospital, usually around 9 p.m., when she knew I'd be lonely and watching television. Her voice would crack just right as she explained the crisis. She'd mention Lily's future, Daniel's stress levels, how hard it was being a young family in today's economy, and I'd transfer the money every single time. By month 15, I'd given them $127,000 in emergency assistance. But you know what finally opened my eyes? It wasn't the money, though it stung. It was Lily. I was picking her up from school one Tuesday when she said something that stopped me cold. "Grandpa, why does Mommy tell people you're rich when you dress like you shop at thrift stores?" 6 years old, and she'd already absorbed Evelyn's casual contempt for the man bankrolling her lifestyle. That night, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Evelyn's social media told a different story than her tearful phone calls. Designer handbags worth thousands, weekend trips to Scottsdale spas, dinners at restaurants where the wine costs more than most people's car payments. Then I found the documents. I'd gone to their house to fix a broken garage door. Because despite being too old to understand modern technology, I was still useful for manual labor. Evelyn was at her yoga class, Daniel was at the hospital, Lily was at school. I needed a screwdriver from Daniel's desk drawer. Instead, I found photocopies of my will, my bank statements, and something that made my blood freeze. A handwritten note in Evelyn's distinctive cursive that read, "After Thanksgiving, make it look natural. Inheritance clear in 6 months." Below that, a phone number and the words, "Final consultation, $5,000. I photographed everything with my phone, hands shaking as I realized what I was looking at. This wasn't just financial abuse anymore. This was a murder plot. But I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I did what any good engineer does when facing a critical problem. I gathered data. I hired a private investigator, a 48-year-old former police detective named Sarah, who specialized in elder fraud cases. What she found in 2 weeks would have made a prosecutor weep with joy. Evelyn had been researching my life insurance policies, $500,000, with her and Daniel as beneficiaries. She'd made inquiries about the probate process in Arizona. She'd even consulted with a lawyer about challenging a will on grounds of mental incompetence. But the smoking gun, phone records showing dozens of calls to a number registered to someone named Vincent Cross, a man with 3 prior convictions for insurance fraud. That's when I discovered what she said about Lily would haunt me forever. The private investigator had recorded one of Evelyn's calls to this Vincent character. I'll never forget her exact words. "The old fool is so attached to the kid, it's pathetic. But once he's gone, I'm shipping her off to my sister in Colorado. Daniel won't fight me on it. He's too busy playing doctor to notice what happens at home anyway." My granddaughter, the little girl who still believed in Santa Claus and made me construction paper cards that said, "World's Best Grandpa." Evelyn was planning to throw her away like yesterday's newspaper. That recording convinced me this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about protecting Lily from a sociopath who saw her own daughter as nothing more than an inconvenience. But I still needed the perfect moment to spring my trap. Thanksgiving dinner would be exactly that. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I heard the phone call that confirmed my worst fears. I'd driven over to babysit Lily while Evelyn attended what she called a very important appointment. Daniel was pulling a double shift at the hospital, and Evelyn needed someone reliable to watch Lily for 4 hours. "You're such a lifesaver, Dad," she'd said, kissing my cheek with Oscar-worthy sincerity. "I don't know what we'd do without you." Lily was napping upstairs when Evelyn's phone rang in the kitchen. She'd forgotten it in a rush to leave. Something that would normally send her into a panic, but today worked perfectly for my purposes. The caller ID showed Vincent W. I almost didn't answer, but then I remembered the private investigator's advice. Document everything. You need them to hang themselves with their own words. So I let it go to voicemail, then played it back on speaker while recording with my own phone. What I heard made me understand exactly what kind of monster had married my son. "Vicky, it's Vincent. Look, we need to finalize this before the holidays. My contact at the funeral home is getting nervous about the timeline." "You said Thanksgiving dinner, right? Family all gathered makes it look more natural when the old man has his heart attack after the meal." He paused and I could hear papers shuffling. "The stuff I gave you, 3 pills crushed up should be enough. Mix it in his wine, something dark that'll hide the powder. He'll get drowsy first, then confused. Then his breathing will slow down. By the time anyone calls 911, it'll look like natural causes. Stress of the holidays, you know, happens to lonely old folks all the time." Another pause. Then Vincent continued with the business details that turned my stomach. "Soon as he's gone, you wait exactly 72 hours before calling the insurance company. Don't seem too eager. Grief takes time, right? Then it's smooth sailing. $500K from life insurance plus whatever's in his accounts, plus that house in Scottsdale. You're looking at close to $3 million total." I had to grip the kitchen counter to keep from collapsing. "About the kid," Vincent went on. "Like we discussed, once probate clears, you ship her off to family somewhere far away. Less complications that way. Stepdads don't need extra baggage, especially when we're talking about starting fresh in Cabo with this kind of money." Stepdads. She was already planning to leave my son after murdering me. But the worst part came next. "Remember, if anyone gets suspicious, you play the devoted daughter-in-law. He was like a father to me. I'm devastated. He'd want us to be happy." That grieving routine you practiced should work perfectly. And if your husband asks too many questions, remind him about his gambling debts from medical school. He'll shut up real quick when he realizes what we know. Gambling debts. Daniel had never mentioned any gambling debts. Vincent wrapped up with chilling efficiency. This time next month, you'll be a wealthy widow with a clean slate. Just stick to the plan, dispose of the phone after, and remember you've never met me in your life. The line went dead. I stood in my son's kitchen holding a phone that contained evidence of a murder conspiracy, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. This woman had sat at my Christmas table. She'd called me dad for 3 years. She'd let me buy her daughter's school clothes while planning to orphan that same child. But I wasn't done listening. When Evelyn returned 2 hours later, she immediately noticed her phone on the counter. "Did anyone call?" she asked casually, but I caught the flash of panic in her eyes. "Just some telemarketer," I lied. I didn't answer. She relaxed visibly, then launched into a performance of the day's activities. Lunch with girlfriends, shopping for Lily's winter clothes, a stop at the bank to deposit the check I'd given her last week for unexpected car repairs. All lies I now knew. She'd been meeting with Vincent to finalize my murder. That evening, after Lily's bedtime story, Evelyn and I sat in their living room watching a cooking show. She was scrolling through her phone, occasionally showing me pictures of holiday recipes she wanted to try. "I'm thinking of making something special for Thanksgiving this year," she said. "Maybe that cranberry sauce recipe your mother used to make. Daniel mentioned you have her old recipe box." The audacity was breathtaking. She was planning my murder while asking for my dead wife's recipes. "Of course," I said. "Eleanor would love that. She always said Thanksgiving was about bringing family together." Evelyn smiled that perfect smile. "Family's everything, Dad. You taught us that." I excused myself early that night, claiming fatigue. But as I drove home through the quiet Phoenix suburbs, I was anything but tired. I was calculating. Vincent thought he was dealing with a naive old man who'd never see it coming. Evelyn thought she was manipulating a lonely widower desperate for family connection. They were both wrong. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I had my plan. The 3 weeks until Thanksgiving. 3 weeks to set a trap that would destroy them both while protecting Lily and Daniel from the truth about who Evelyn really was. The next morning, I called Detective Sarah. "I need you to be at my son's house on Thanksgiving Day," I told her, "and bring a patrol unit. We're going to catch a murderer in the act." But first, I had some shopping to do. If Evelyn wanted to poison someone's wine, I was going to make sure she got exactly what she deserved. The Monday morning after that phone call, I made the hardest decision of my life. I was going to let Evelyn try to kill me. Not because I had a death wish, but because I'd learned something important during my 37 years at NASA. The best way to stop a catastrophic failure is to control exactly when and how it happens. My first call was to Morrison and Associates, the law firm that had handled Eleanor's estate. David Morrison had been our family attorney for 15 years, and he understood the situation immediately when I explained what I discovered. "Arthur, you're talking about something incredibly dangerous," he said during our emergency meeting that Tuesday morning. "If even one detail goes wrong." "David, this woman is going to kill me whether I fight her now or later," I interrupted. "The only question is whether I control the circumstances, or she does." He leaned back in his leather chair, studying the documents I'd brought, the forged will copies, the bank records showing Evelyn's spending patterns, the recorded phone conversation with Vincent. "What exactly are you proposing?" "I want to cancel all my existing estate plans today, replace them with something ironclad that she can never touch. Then I want to set up the perfect sting operation." David was quiet for a long moment. "You realize that if this goes wrong, you could actually die. If I do nothing, I'm dead anyway. But this way, Lily stays safe, Daniel learns the truth, and Evelyn gets exactly what she deserves." We spent 4 hours that day completely restructuring my estate. The new will was bulletproof, witnessed by 3 attorneys, video recorded, with clear statements about my mental competence. Evelyn and Daniel were removed as beneficiaries entirely. Instead, everything would go into a trust for Lily's education and future, managed by the law firm until she turned 25. But the real insurance policy was the safety net I arranged. I need you to hire the best toxicologist in Arizona, I told David. Someone who can tell me exactly how much of whatever drug she's planning to use will make me sick without actually killing me. Dr. Patricia Williams from the University of Arizona Medical Center was a forensic toxicologist who testified in dozens of poisoning cases. When David explained our situation, she agreed to consult under strict confidentiality. Based on the phone conversation you recorded, Dr. Williams explained during our secret meeting, she's likely using a benzodiazepine, probably crushed Ambien or Xanax mixed with alcohol. 3 pills and a glass of wine would definitely be fatal for someone your age and weight. My stomach turned. She really was trying to kill me. But Dr. Williams, I continued, if you only consumed about 1/3 of that dose, you'd experience drowsiness and confusion, but nothing life-threatening. The key is controlling exactly how much you ingest. That's when the plan crystallized. What if I switched our glasses after she drugged mine, but before either of us drank much? Dr. Williams nodded thoughtfully. She'd get the full dose she intended for you, while you'd get whatever small amount might have transferred to her glass. Essentially nothing. She'd be unconscious within 20 minutes, and you'd be completely fine. Perfect. The next step was arranging witnesses. Not just any witnesses. People who could testify to Evelyn's state of mind and actions before the poisoning attempt. I called my brother Tom in Tucson and invited him and his wife Linda for Thanksgiving. I reached out to my neighbor Harold, who'd been a close friend since Eleanor's death. I even called my former colleague from NASA, Dr. Jennifer Park, and her husband. By the time I finished making calls, we'd have 12 adults at dinner, plus Lily, all respectable people who could serve as witnesses to whatever Evelyn tried to do. But the most important call was to Detective Rodriguez at the Phoenix Police Department. Detective Maria Rodriguez specialized in elder abuse cases, and she'd seen enough financial exploitation to know this was something bigger. Mr. Hayes, what you're describing is conspiracy to commit murder, she said when I played Vincent's voicemail. We need to arrest her immediately. No, I said firmly. If you arrest her now, you'll get her for conspiracy and fraud. But Vincent will disappear, and she'll claim it was all his idea. I need her to actually attempt the poisoning with witnesses present. Then you'll have attempted murder, and she won't be able to blame anyone else. Rodriguez was quiet for a long time. This is incredibly risky. Less risky than letting her try again when I'm not expecting it. Finally, she agreed. We'll have plainclothes officers positioned around the house. The moment you give us the signal, we move in. The signal would be simple. I'd text now to Rodriguez's phone. By Thursday morning, everything was in place. The new will was filed, the witnesses were coming, the police were ready. All I had to do was survive dinner with a woman who wanted me dead. But as I straightened my tie that Thanksgiving morning, I realized something interesting had happened over the past 3 weeks. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was eager. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I decided to test Evelyn's true character with a little experiment. I called her on a Tuesday evening, timing it perfectly for when Daniel would be at the hospital and Lily would be asleep. Evelyn always answered on the first ring when she thought I might be calling with another emergency that required financial assistance. "Hi, Dad," she said, her voice immediately shifting to that concerned tone she'd perfected. "How are you feeling? You sounded tired when we talked yesterday." "Already probing about my health. Interesting." "Actually, Evelyn, that's why I'm calling. I need to talk to someone about this, and I don't want to worry Daniel while he's so busy with his residency." I let my voice shake just slightly, not too much, but enough to signal vulnerability. "What's wrong? You're scaring me." "I had some tests done last week. Dr. Peterson called today with results that, well, they're not what we hoped for." Complete silence on the other end. I could practically hear her calculating. "What kind of tests, Dad?" "Heart function, blood work, the whole battery. Apparently the stress of losing Eleanor combined with my age. Dr. Peterson thinks I might need immediate surgery. Something about blocked arteries and heart rhythm irregularities." I paused for effect, then delivered the hook. The surgery alone will cost about $200,000. Insurance will cover some of it, but with the experimental procedures Dr. Peterson recommends, I'm looking at significant out-of-pocket expenses. Another pause. How significant? Maybe $400,000 total. I hate to even think about it, but I might need to liquidate some of my retirement accounts early. Take the tax penalties. What happened next told me everything I needed to know about Evelyn's priorities. Instead of asking about my prognosis, my fears, or how I was coping emotionally, her first question was, "How much do you have in those retirement accounts total?" Well, between the 401k, the IRAs, and the investment portfolio, probably around $8 million. But if I have to liquidate early for medical expenses, the penalties and taxes will eat up a huge chunk. Dad, that's a lot of money to lose the penalties. I could hear her breathing change. She was excited. You know, she continued, Daniel and I have been talking, and we think you should consider putting some of your assets in a family trust. You know, to protect them from exactly this kind of situation, medical expenses, tax issues, that sort of thing. A family trust where Evelyn would undoubtedly suggest herself as a trustee. That's actually not a bad idea, I said. Would you and Daniel be willing to help me research that? Maybe we could meet with a financial advisor this weekend. Absolutely. In fact, I know someone who specializes in estate planning for seniors. Very discreet, very professional. I could set up a meeting. Of course, she knew someone. Probably Vincent or one of his associates. There's just one thing, I continued. Dr. Peterson wants to schedule the surgery for the week after Thanksgiving. So if we're going to do any financial restructuring, it needs to happen soon. Don't worry about that, Dad. We'll take care of everything. You just focus on staying healthy until after the surgery. The irony was so thick, I almost laughed. She was telling me to stay healthy while planning to poison me in less than 2 weeks. Evelyn, I can't tell you how much it means to have you and Daniel looking out for me. Eleanor always said you were the daughter she never had. We love you, Dad. Family takes care of family. After I hung up, I immediately called David Morrison to report the conversation. She took the bait completely, I told him. She's already planning to get control of my assets before the supposed surgery. Did she seem concerned about your health at all? Not even slightly. Her only questions were about money and how to get access to it. David was quiet for a moment. Arthur, this woman is even more cold-blooded than we thought. The next morning, Evelyn called me at 7 a.m. Dad, I've been thinking about our conversation all night. I set up a meeting for us with that financial advisor I mentioned this Friday at 2 p.m. His name is Vincent Cross, and he specializes in emergency estate planning. Vincent Cross, the same man from the recorded phone call about my murder. That's wonderful, Evelyn. But are you sure we can trust this person? I mean, we're talking about my life savings. Dad, I wouldn't recommend anyone I didn't trust completely. Vincent has helped several families I know navigate exactly these kinds of situations. He's very experienced with time-sensitive planning. Time-sensitive planning. She meant planning around my expected death date. Well, if you trust him, that's good enough for me. Perfect. Oh, and Dad, it might be better if we don't mention this to Daniel right now. You know how he worries. And with the stress of his residency, the last thing he needs is to be distracted by financial planning details. She wanted to meet with her murder conspirator without Daniel present. Of course, you're probably right. This can be our project. Exactly. Just between us for now. That Friday, I drove to the address Evelyn had given me, a small office building in a sketchy part of Phoenix. I parked across the street and watched through binoculars as Evelyn met with a tall, thin man in an expensive suit, Vincent Cross in person. They talked for 45 minutes. I photographed them together, documented the license plate of his black Mercedes, and recorded the address. All evidence for Detective Rodriguez. But I didn't go inside. Instead, I called Evelyn an hour later. I'm so sorry, I told her. I had chest pains on the way to the meeting and had to pull over. Dr. Peterson says I should avoid any stressful activities until after the surgery. "Oh my God, are you okay?" The fake concern in her voice was almost insulting. "I'm fine, but maybe we should postpone the financial planning until after Thanksgiving, after the surgery, assuming everything goes well." Of course. Dad, your health comes first. But what she was really thinking, I knew, was that after Thanksgiving, financial planning would be irrelevant because I'd be dead. The confrontation came exactly 1 week before Thanksgiving. Evelyn showed up at my house unannounced on a Wednesday evening, her usual sweet demeanor replaced by something much sharper. I was washing dishes from dinner when I heard her BMW pull into my driveway with an aggressive screech of brakes. She didn't knock. She used the spare key I'd given her months ago for emergencies and walked straight into my kitchen like she owned the place. "We need to talk, Dad." No greeting, no fake concern about my health, just cold, direct confrontation. "Of course, honey. What's on your mind?" She slammed her designer purse onto my kitchen counter, the 8,000 Hermes bag she'd bought with my money while claiming they couldn't afford Lily's school supplies. "I know what you're doing." I continued washing dishes, keeping my voice level. "I'm not sure what you mean." "The financial advisor meeting. You deliberately missed it, and now Vincent tells me you've been asking questions around town about estate planning attorneys." Vincent had been monitoring my activities. Interesting. "Evelyn, I told you I had chest pains that day. And yes, I've been researching attorneys. After what you said about protecting my assets, I thought I should get multiple opinions." She moved closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "Don't play games with me, old man. I know exactly what's in your bank accounts. I know about your life insurance policies. I know about the will that leaves everything to me and Daniel." The mask was completely off now. This was the real Evelyn, calculating, aggressive, entitled. "I'm not playing games," I said calmly. "I'm being responsible with my finances." "Responsible?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what would be responsible. Remembering who's been taking care of you since Eleanor died, who's been bringing Lily over to keep you company, who's been making sure you're not rotting away alone in this house." I turned to face her fully. "I've been grateful. The money I've given you and Daniel, the money you've given us is nothing compared to what you owe this family," she interrupted. "Lily calls you Grandpa. Daniel treats you like a father. I've been the perfect daughter-in-law for 3 years. 3 years of listening to your stories about NASA, pretending to care about your boring hobbies, acting like I enjoy spending time with you." There it was, the truth she'd been hiding. "I've wasted the best years of my life managing your loneliness," she continued, "and now you're going to repay that by cutting us out, by giving our inheritance to some stranger." Our inheritance? She was already spending my money in her mind. "Evelyn, I haven't cut anyone out of anything." "Don't lie to me. Vincent has sources at law firms around the city. We know you've been meeting with estate attorneys. We know you're planning to change your will." So Vincent had a network of informants. This conspiracy was bigger than I'd thought. I dried my hands on a kitchen towel, taking my time, letting the silence build. "Even if I were considering changes to my estate plan, that would be my legal right." Her eyes flashed dangerously. "Legal rights? You want to talk about legal rights? How about Lily's right to financial security? How about Daniel's right to inherit from the man who raised him? Daniel is my son. Lily is my granddaughter. They'll always be taken care of." "But I won't be. Is that it?" Evelyn stepped closer, her voice rising. "The woman who sacrificed everything to be part of this family gets nothing?" "You've sacrificed nothing," I said quietly. "You've been paid very well for your time." That stopped her cold. For a moment, something like fear flickered across her face. Then the anger returned, stronger than before. "You have no idea what I'm capable of, old man. I'm beginning to understand exactly what you're capable of." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then turned back one final time. "Enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner, Dad. It might be your last as part of this family." After she left, I sat in my quiet kitchen for a long time, thinking about what had just happened. Evelyn had revealed more than she intended. She was desperate. She was angry. And desperate, angry people make mistakes. In exactly 7 days, she was going to make the biggest mistake of her life. Within 24 hours of our confrontation, Evelyn launched her social media campaign against me. It started subtly. A Facebook post on Thursday morning that read, "Praying for family members going through difficult transitions. Sometimes the people we love most struggle with changes that come with aging. Patience and understanding are so important during these challenging times. Family, first, unconditional love." 37 likes and 12 comments within an hour. All from mutual friends and neighbors expressing concern and support for Evelyn's difficult situation. By Friday, the post became more specific. "Heartbroken tonight when someone you've cared for, like a parent, starts pushing away the people who love them most. It's devastating. Daniel and I are trying to stay strong for Lily, but it's so hard to watch. Mental health is just as important as physical health, especially for our seniors. Mental health awareness elder care." The comment section was exactly what she wanted. "Oh, honey, is Arthur okay? My dad went through something similar. Have you considered counseling, sending prayers? This must be so hard for Lily." Evelyn responded to each comment with practiced vulnerability. "Thank you for the support. We're exploring all options to help him through this difficult time." Saturday brought the direct attack. Sometimes loving someone means making hard decisions about their well-being. When cognitive decline affects judgment, families have to step in. It's the most loving thing we can do, even when it feels impossible. Researching resources for families dealing with early-stage dementia, Alzheimer's awareness, family support, cognitive decline, early-stage dementia. She was systematically destroying my reputation and mental competency in the court of public opinion. The genius of it was the language she used, never directly accusing, always concerned. Never naming me specifically, but everyone knew exactly who she meant. My neighbor Harold called that afternoon. "Arthur, I've been seeing some concerning posts online. Is everything all right between you and Evelyn?" "What kind of posts?" "Well, she seems to think you're having some kind of mental health crisis, memory problems, decision-making issues. She's asking for prayers and advice about elder care." I could hear the worry in Harold's voice. He'd known me for 8 years, but Evelyn's campaign was creating doubt, even among people who should know better. "Harold, my mind is as sharp as it's ever been, but I have discovered some very disturbing things about Evelyn's true intentions toward this family." "What kind of things?" I made a decision. Harold had been Eleanor's close friend and had always been protective of me since her death. If anyone deserved to know the truth, it was him. "Can you come over tonight? There's something I need you to hear." That evening, I played Harold the recorded phone conversation between Evelyn and Vincent. I showed him the forged documents. I explained the entire murder plot. Harold's face went white. "Jesus, Arthur. This woman is planning to kill you, and she's using social media to establish your supposed mental incompetence as cover. If you die mysteriously, everyone will assume it was the natural progression of your cognitive decline. We have to call the police. We will, but not yet. I need her to attempt the actual crime with witnesses present. Otherwise, she'll claim it was all Vincent's idea and she was manipulated." Harold shook his head. "This is insane. She's destroying your reputation while planning your murder. Let her. By Thursday evening, everyone will know exactly who Evelyn really is." But Evelyn wasn't finished with her campaign. Sunday's post was her masterpiece. "Emergency family meeting today. Sometimes you have to choose between enabling someone's dangerous behavior and protecting the innocent. Lily's safety and well-being have to come first. Praying for wisdom and strength to do the right thing even when it breaks your heart. Protect our children, tough love." The implication was clear. I was becoming dangerous to my own granddaughter. Daniel called me within an hour. "Dad, Evelyn is really worried about you. She thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown. She showed me messages you've been sending, things you've been saying that don't make sense." "What messages, Daniel?" "About conspiracy theories about people trying to hurt you. Dad, you accused Evelyn of trying to steal from you. That's not like you at all. Evelyn had turned my son against me by reframing my legitimate concerns as paranoid delusions. Daniel, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Your wife is not who you think she is. Dad, please. Evelyn loves you. We all love you, but you're scaring Lily with this behavior. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. The line went dead. By Monday morning, Evelyn had successfully isolated me from most of my family and friends. Her social media narrative had painted me as a declining old man whose paranoid accusations were symptoms of dementia. But she'd made one critical error. She'd assumed I was fighting this battle alone. Tuesday afternoon, my phone started ringing. Not from people offering sympathy for my condition, but from people who'd done their own research. Dr. Jennifer Park from NASA. Arthur, I've been following this social media drama. This woman is running a textbook financial abuse campaign against you. My brother Tom, the way she's posting about you online feels like psychological warfare. What's really going on? Detective Rodriguez, Mr. Hayes, Evelyn's online activity is actually helping our case. She's documenting her own motive and premeditation. By Wednesday evening, the battle lines were clear. Evelyn had her supporters who believed her concerned daughter-in-law act, but I had mine too. People who knew me well enough to see through her manipulation. Thursday's Thanksgiving dinner would determine which side was right. Wednesday night, less than 12 hours before Thanksgiving dinner, I sat in my study with Detective Rodriguez and compiled the complete case against Evelyn Hayes. The evidence was overwhelming. Let's start with the financial timeline, Rodriguez said, spreading documents across my desk. Every transaction, every request, every lie. March 15th, 2023. Emergency school clothes for Lily. Evelyn's request, 200, actual purchase 53 at Target. Remaining money spent at Sephora Cosmetics store. April 8th, 2023. Daniel's emergency dental work. Evelyn's request, $12,000. Insurance records showed no dental procedures for Daniel that month. Bank records showed Evelyn's BMW down payment, $11,800. May 22nd, 2023, kitchen renovation emergency. Evelyn's request, $65,000. Actual renovation cost, $38,000. Remaining money, vacation to Cabo San Lucas and designer furniture. The pattern was consistent across 18 months. Every sob story, every crisis, every tearful phone call about family needs. Total extracted, $127,436. Total spent on actual family needs, less than $20,000. She's been running a long-term con, Rodriguez observed. Each request designed to look legitimate while systematically draining your accounts. But the financial fraud was just the foundation. The real evidence was the murder conspiracy. Item 1. The recorded phone conversation with Vincent Cross. Rodriguez had enhanced the audio quality, making every word crystal clear. Vincent's instructions about crushing pills, mixing them in wine, and timing the heart attack for maximum believability. Item 2. Evelyn's research history. Her laptop, which I'd accessed during one of my babysitting visits, contained browser searches for Ambien lethal dose elderly, natural causes heart attack, and Arizona probate timeline inheritance. Item 3. The forged will documents found in her possession. Handwriting analysis confirmed Evelyn had copied my signature practice sheets and modified my existing will to maximize her inheritance. Item 4. Vincent Cross's criminal background. 3 prior convictions for insurance fraud. 2 for elder abuse. 1 for conspiracy to commit murder. This wasn't his first time helping someone kill a family member for money. Item 5. Evelyn's financial desperation. Credit card debt, $47,000. Overdue mortgage payments, 3 months behind. BMW lease, 2 payments past due. She needed my money not for luxury, but for basic survival. The beautiful thing, Rodriguez said, is that she's documented everything herself. The social media posts about your cognitive decline established premeditation. She's been building a cover story for months. But the evidence I was most proud of was what Evelyn didn't know existed. For the past 6 weeks, I'd been wearing a voice-activated recording device everywhere I went. Every conversation with Evelyn, every phone call, every interaction was documented. The technology was smaller than a hearing aid and virtually undetectable. The recordings revealed her true personality when she thought no one was listening. October 18th. Daniel is such an idiot. He actually believes his father needs that much money for car repairs. $23,000 for a Honda Civic? God, men are stupid. October 25th. Lily keeps asking why Grandpa looks sad lately. I told her it's because old people get confused and forget how to be happy. She'll understand when she's older that some sacrifices are necessary. November 3rd. The old fool actually thinks I care about his NASA stories. I've been planning this for 2 years and he's still completely clueless. By Christmas, we'll be shopping for our new house with his money. November 12th. Vincent says 3 pills will definitely work. The beautiful thing is, even if someone suspects something, who's going to believe that sweet little Evelyn poisoned her beloved father-in-law? I'm the grieving daughter-in-law who did everything to take care of him. But the recording that sealed her fate was from Monday night after our kitchen confrontation. She'd called Vincent immediately after leaving my house. The old bastard knows something. He's been meeting with lawyers, asking questions. We have to move up the timeline. Thanksgiving dinner or never. Vincent's response: Thursday works. Holiday stress, family gatherings, rich food. Perfect cover for a cardiac event. Just make sure you dispose of your phone afterward and stick to the script. You're the devastated daughter-in-law who tried everything to save him. Vincent, what about the kid? 6-year-olds don't solve murder cases. She'll get over it. You're right. By New Year's, this will all be over and we'll be rich. Dr. Patricia Williams had provided the final piece of evidence, a chemical analysis of the white powder Evelyn had obtained from Vincent. Pure Ambien, prescription sleep medication crushed into a powder form. 3 pills dissolved in wine would cause respiratory depression, cardiac arrhythmia, and death within 30 to 45 minutes. She's not just planning theft, Rodriguez concluded. She's planning a perfect murder. As we finished organizing the evidence files, I realized something profound had happened over the past 6 weeks. I'd transformed from victim to prosecutor, from target to hunter. Tomorrow, I told Rodriguez, we end this. Are you ready? I looked at the mountain of evidence against the woman who'd called me dad while planning my murder. I've been ready since the day I found those forged documents. Then let's catch a killer. Thanksgiving Day 2024, 3:47 p.m. 12 family members sat around my dining room table, sharing what they were grateful for this year. Evelyn had just finished a beautiful speech about family loyalty and cherishing the time we have with loved ones. The irony was exquisite. I'm so grateful for Dad, she said, raising her wine glass toward me, for his wisdom, his generosity, and for showing us what it means to put family first. Daniel and I don't know what we'd do without him. Murmurs of agreement around the table. My brother Tom nodded approvingly. My neighbor Harold smiled warmly. Even Lily clapped her little hands. None of them knew they were watching a murderer deliver her victim's eulogy. That's beautiful, Evelyn, I said. I'm grateful for family too, for people who show their true colors when it matters most. She smiled that perfect smile, but I caught the flash of calculation in her eyes. The powder was already dissolving in my wine glass. She'd stirred it in while I was carving the turkey, thinking I hadn't noticed. Dad, you look tired, she said with fake concern. Maybe you should drink something. Stay hydrated. She gestured toward my wine glass, the Napa Valley Cabernet that would have been my death sentence. You're absolutely right, I said, reaching for the glass. But first, I'd like to propose a toast. I stood up, wine glass in hand, and looked around the table at faces I'd known and loved for decades. Tom and Linda, who'd driven 4 hours from Tucson. Harold and his wife Mary, who'd been Eleanor's dearest friends. Dr. Jennifer Park and her husband David, my colleagues from NASA. And Daniel, my son, who still had no idea he was married to a sociopath. This has been a remarkable year, I began. A year of discovery, of learning who people really are when they think no one is watching. Evelyn's smile flickered slightly, but she maintained her composure. I've learned about loyalty, about greed, about the length some people will go to get what they want. I paused, making eye contact with each person at the table. I've also learned about the importance of evidence. That got Evelyn's attention. Her hand tightened around her wine glass. But mostly I've learned that sometimes the best way to catch a predator is to let them think they've already won. The room was completely silent now. Even Lily sensed something important was happening. "Evelyn," I said, turning to face her directly, "would you like to do the honors?" I held up my wine glass in a toast gesture. She hesitated for just a moment, the first crack in her confidence I'd seen all day. But she was committed now, too far in to back out. "Of course, Dad," she said, raising her own glass. "To family." "To family," I agreed, "and to getting exactly what we deserve." We touched glasses. The crystal made a beautiful ringing sound. Then I did something that changed both our lives forever. I switched our glasses. It happened in a split second during the moment when everyone was looking down to set their glasses on the table. A simple sleight of hand I'd practiced hundreds of times over the past month. Evelyn never noticed. She was too focused on watching for signs that I was beginning to feel drowsy. But I noticed everything. The way she kept checking her phone for the time, the way she positioned herself with a clear view of my face, the way she'd already crafted her performance for when I started to feel unwell. "You know," I said conversationally, "I've been thinking a lot about inheritance lately, about what we leave behind for the people we love." Evelyn perked up immediately. That's a wonderful thing to think about, Dad." "I've made some changes to my will recently," I continued. "Some very important changes that I think everyone should know about." Around the table, family members shifted uncomfortably. Discussing money at Thanksgiving dinner wasn't exactly traditional. "Dad," Daniel interjected, "maybe we should—" "No, son, this is important." I took a sip of wine. Evelyn's wine. The safe wine. "I want everyone to understand my decisions." Evelyn was hanging on every word now. "What kind of changes, Dad?" "Well, I've removed you and Daniel as primary beneficiaries." The room went dead silent. Evelyn's face went white. "What?" James said. "Dad, why would you?" "Because I discovered something very interesting about how my money has been spent over the past 18 months. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared and set it on the table. 127,436. That's how much I've given to Daniel and Evelyn for various family emergencies. Evelyn's hands started shaking slightly. She took a large gulp of wine to steady herself. "Dad, we can explain." "James, I can explain that," Evelyn started, but her words were slightly slurred. She looked confused, like she couldn't understand why she suddenly felt dizzy. May 22nd, 65,000 for kitchen renovation. Actual renovation, 38,000. Remaining money, vacation to Cabo, and designer furniture. Evelyn tried to stand up but stumbled slightly. I don't feel... That's when little Lily, who'd been quietly listening from her spot at the kids' table, said something that made the entire room freeze. "Mommy, why did you put the white powder in Grandpa's drink?" Complete silence. Evelyn turned to look at Lily, panic replacing confusion on her face. "Emma, honey, you didn't see—" "I was hiding under the kitchen table when you stirred it in," Lily continued with 6-year-old honesty. "You said Grandpa would go to sleep forever so we could get a big house." The wine glass slipped from Evelyn's hand and shattered on the floor. That's not... "Emma, you misunderstood." Evelyn's words were becoming more slurred by the second as the crushed Ambien she'd intended for me began taking effect. But Emma wasn't finished. "You told the man on the phone that Grandpa would have a heart attack and then we'd be rich." Around the table, 12 adults stared in horror as they realized what they were witnessing. "Evelyn," I said quietly, "would you like to tell everyone what you put in my wine?" She tried to focus on my face, but the sedative was working too quickly. No. This isn't... Because I have a recording of your conversation with Vincent Cross. Would you like me to play it for everyone? I pulled out my phone and hit play. Vincent's voice filled the dining room. 3 pills crushed up should be enough. Mix it in his wine. Something dark that'll hide the powder. Evelyn collapsed back into her chair, the full dose of her own poison coursing through her system. You switched? She mumbled, finally understanding what had happened. Yes, I did. Just like you switched your loyalty from family to murder when you thought no one was watching. Daniel stood up abruptly, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. Evelyn, what the hell's going on? But Evelyn was past explaining. She was barely conscious, her head lolling to the side as the sedative overcame her. I picked up my phone and sent a single text message. Now. Within 30 seconds, Detective Rodriguez and 2 uniformed officers entered through my front door. Evelyn Hayes, Rodriguez said, approaching the table with handcuffs ready. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and elder financial abuse. Pew. As they lifted Evelyn's unconscious form from the chair, Lily looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes. Grandpa, is Mommy going to jail? I knelt down to her level and spoke as gently as I could. Yes, sweetheart, Mommy did something very wrong, and now she has to face the consequences. Will I still live with Daddy? You'll always live with Daddy, and Grandpa will always be here to protect you. As the paramedics loaded Evelyn into an ambulance and the police secured the crime scene, I realized that Thanksgiving dinner had become exactly what it should be, a day when we gave thanks for justice, truth, and the protection of innocent children. Evelyn had gotten exactly what she deserved, and I was still alive to see it. 6 months later, Evelyn Hayes was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, attempted murder, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud for the fake medical emergency scheme. The judge called it one of the most calculated and cold-blooded cases of family exploitation she'd ever seen. Vincent Cross received 12 years after his arrest revealed he'd been running similar schemes across 3 states, 17 elderly victims, over $2 million stolen. My case broke open an entire network of inheritance predators. The civil restitution was equally satisfying. Evelyn was ordered to repay the full $127,000 plus an additional $127,050 in punitive damages. Her BMW was seized, her designer belongings auctioned. Every luxury purchase made with my money was clawed back by the court. But the real victory was protecting Lily. Daniel was granted full custody immediately. Evelyn's visitation rights were suspended, pending psychological evaluation. Lily started therapy to process what she'd witnessed, but children are resilient. Within 3 months, she was back to making me construction paper cards and asking for bedtime stories about rockets. My relationship with Daniel took longer to heal. The betrayal cut deep. Not just Evelyn's betrayal of me, but his failure to see what was happening in his own home. We're working through it in family counseling. Trust, once broken by deception, takes time to rebuild. The new will is ironclad. Lily's education trust is managed by Morrison and Associates until she turns 25. Daniel receives a modest inheritance when I die, but the bulk goes to Lily and several charities focused on elder abuse prevention. I've also established the Eleanor Hayes Foundation for Elder Protection, funded with $200,000. It provides free legal services for seniors facing financial exploitation by family members. The biggest change? I'm no longer lonely. Harold and I have coffee every Tuesday. Dr. Jennifer Park and I volunteer together at the Science Museum on weekends. My brother Tom visits monthly instead of yearly. Turns out when you stop being an easy target, you discover who your real friends are. Lily asked me last week if I was sad that Evelyn was in jail. No, sweetheart, I told her. Sometimes people make choices that hurt others. When that happens, consequences aren't punishment, they're protection. She nodded solemnly, then asked if we could build a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes. We spent the afternoon launching our creation in the backyard. And I realized something important. The best revenge isn't just getting even. It's building a better life with the people who actually deserve your love. Evelyn wanted my money. Instead, she got exactly what she earned, and I got my real family back.